Welcome to Empowered to Grow, the podcast. I am your host, Hanan and Basha, the business doctor. Following our conversations with empowered women who woke up one day and consciously claimed, I am more than enough, I am worthy, I am empowered to grow. And along their empowering journey towards realizing their own potential and their quest for growth, they became a beacon of hope and guidance for others. May you also find your inner power to grow. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Empowered to Grow. I have a very interesting guest for you tonight or today, wherever you are, and talking about topics that I don't think we have addressed in this way on this podcast, which is really interesting. Nischa Phair, all the way from Canada. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. Nischa is an author and a researcher and a pleasure educator. And we're going to delve a bit deeper into that in our conversation. But she brings up this subject of fawning. And yes, I did actually have to research just to make sure that I'm getting the right understanding. But we're going to be talking about that as well as the conversation rolls. But I want to start somewhere else, Nischa. Empowered to Grow. When you read that phrase and knew that that was the name of the podcast, what does this phrase mean to you, or how did it resonate with you?
When I think about being empowered to grow, there are a few things that come forward for me. Number one is having agency and being given the space to cultivate our own agency, because that's, especially as women, it's something that seems to be in a lot of short supply for us, whether it's because of the pandemic or because of work, because of managing all the balls that we have throwing up in the air. Yeah. There isn't a lot of space for us to be who we are. We're often pulled in many different directions. And so when I think about being empowered to grow, I really think about agency and about creating space ourselves. So pushing back against those maybe socially contrived ideas of who we're supposed to be in our relationships, in our work lives, with our families, and become who it is we came here to be.
I love that. And agency, that is very important. As you said, it's something that I don't think we address enough as well, or we're not conditioned to address enough growing up.
Yes, that's it.
Exactly. Okay, so from that perspective, you are empowered to grow in your own way right now, and you are empowering others. Can you tell us a bit more about your story, please?
How far down the rabbit hole do we want to go?
As far as you'd like. I've got all the time in the world.
Sure. Well, the journey that got me where I am today is really kind of a lifelong one. And the book is really a 30-year-long healing process that I've been on since I was a teenager. I'm a survivor of developmental trauma. I've had abusive relationships and also assaults as an adult. So I have a lot of lived experience with agency and people pushing into my space and robbing me of my agency. So I have my whole life have really been working to try and push back and create space and become who it is that I came here to be. The work that I do now is it grew out of my healing from the abusive relationship I was in. It ended in 2014. And in healing that abusive relationship, I really had to go back and see how that relationship was just like a little microcosm for all of the stuff I experienced growing up in a turbulent and very authoritative, very religious and abusive home. So the last 7 years really have driven me down or guided me down this path to really explore how our social conditioning mixes in with our biology and with our upbringing to try and kind of tease out the pieces that are me and the pieces that are my conditioning and the pieces that are my wounding. again, to try and really become my authentic self. So this work around Fawn was a really formative piece because, and I know we'll go into it in greater detail, but I really see that it's kind of the linchpin that keeps unhealthy relationship dynamics in play. So it's this kind of submission response that allows us to survive and get by and kind of grin and bear it. But again, this is happening because we're being imposed upon or we're being intimidated by someone with greater social or physical power than we have. And so we have this process of just chipping away at our sense of self. Our bodies get smaller, physically smaller. So this is sort of a very long-winded way of talking about how I've arrived at this book and this research. It's really been, like I said, a 30-year process, but targeted in the last, say, 7. I've been really, really diving deep into the fawn response and how our nervous systems really need to be in a place of regulation in order to have healthy relationships with one another.
And just to kind of define for everyone, fawn, who are not familiar with the term, that's people pleasing, that is related to accepting things or, acts, emotions or whatever it is that do not necessarily go down with us in a good way, but just because we don't want to rock the boat. Is this the general understanding of fawn or fawning? Yeah.
So fawn it's a biological stress response. That's the first thing that I want people to understand, is that this is something that mammals do across different species. All human beings, male, female, non-binary, we can all do it because it's part of our biological wiring. It's just one of the stress responses we have access to. So we're all kind of a little bit more familiar with fight flight, perhaps.
Yeah, I was just about to say the regular sympathetic nervous system reaction.
Yes. So fawn is a stress response, just like fight or flight is, but it is within the same arc of a stress response cascade. It's one of the doors we can go through when we're trying to avoid danger or get to safety. It is what's called a hypoarousal response. So where fight flight is hyperarousal, we think of like really maybe agitated, lashing out, running away, these kind of priming for action type responses. Fawn is a submission response. So we get smaller, we might feel more sedated. Again, like you said, it's a sort of not rocking the boat, or the grinning and bear it kind of approach. And what I want folks to really understand is that just like lashing out or running away is the behavior associated with a fight flight response, going along with something, silencing your own voice, abandoning yourself, grinning and bearing it, saying yes to something you don't want to do to try and feel safer because it's just easier. These are the behaviors that are caused by the stress response. So we don't do these things because we want to, or because we're weak, or because we don't love ourselves enough. We do them because that's the effect of the fawn response being triggered at the body level. So I wanted a couple more things we can kind of just to give people examples of how it shows up in relationships. So a lot of my clients will come to me and they'll say, I thought I was choosing to go along with it, or I thought I just hated sex with my partner, or, saying yes to a certain act that you don't really want to do, but you want to save the relationship. And we start to see this more as, people are becoming more sexually aware and more sexually literate. We're opening up to all the various different things that can happen. And when one partner wants to try something and the other doesn't, and that other partner has 3 kids at home, and maybe they don't have, they can't support themselves financially. Okay. We start to get a really complicated situation where, is my partner gonna divorce me if I don't say yes to a threesome or what have you, right? So the fawn response really hinges on our sense of safety and our ability to feel like our no and our authenticity is going to be accepted and honored if we are to voice ourselves authentically within a relationship. So does that feel like it fleshes things out?
Sorry, does it only manifest in the sexual setting, the sexual relationship, or does it have other manifestations?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. No, it shows up in any, so fawn is a hierarchical stress response.
Okay.
It's different from our other stress responses in that, you know, we don't fawn at a falling tree branch or an oncoming car or a loud noise in the middle of the night, right? We only fawn with other people. Okay. So it can happen in the workplace. It can happen in within your religious community. It can happen within your social circle. Anywhere we feel like, you know, in a way, social media is a kind of hierarchical stress that we experience too, right? So anytime we feel like we have less physical, social, emotional power within a certain dynamic, again, whether it's work, home, family, relationship, or other social communities, then we're more likely to use that response as a way to feel safe.
And you've put in your work and your research in the context of the relationship, the fawning in relationships.
I have, and that's simply because that's where I see the most harm is being done for people. But it's also because I really believe that the health of our relationships is the key to saving our world and leaving a better world for the generations to come. You know, when I don't know if anyone out there, or if you, Hanan, have ever been in a relationship that felt unhealthy or where you weren't accepted to be your authentic self. And I can say from my experience, like right? Like I remember I used everything that I had, every single resource. And by the end of the day, I was exhausted just trying to manage his behavior, his wishes, and there was nothing left for me. There was nothing left for me to give back to my community. There was nothing left for me to like go out there and see how I can help, you know, the world in some way. I was just so consumed with that, trying to maintain the stress in that relationship. And when our relationships are healthy, we have tons left for ourselves. They feed us, right? So when our relationships feed us, they're not feeding on us. And that's something I try to like get people to think of too. If it's not feeding you, it's feeding on you. Yeah. So really looking for ways for us to be nourished by our relationships, so we have lots to give back to our communities, to the world, and so that we can show up with purpose in the way that we intended and desired to when we came to this earth. So
wow. Okay, so from where you stand today and with all the work you have done, what advice would you go back and impart on your 19-year-old self?
Oh, I love this question. Oh, that's great. You know, it's tricky because I think a lot of people ask me and have over the years, you know, what would you do different? And in a way, I wouldn't do anything different because if I had done anything differently, I wouldn't be who I am and I wouldn't be here. Yeah. But I think if there was one piece of advice that I would give to my 18 or 19-year-old self, it would just be trust yourself, listen to your instincts and listen to your body. Know that those little whispers, they're right, and they're trying to guide you in the direction of what's going to be most supportive to your well-being and your highest good.
I love that. Yes. And yes, another lack of conditioning there, that we don't trust ourselves enough. We're made dependent from day one. Is like, no, you have to listen to someone else, and you know the answer is always outside of you. And I think that is something that to go back and impart, or not go back, to impart on the younger generation and ourselves, or even right now, just saying, you know, trust your gut as well. Yes. That's intuition doesn't really misguide you in that sense. No. Okay. The other end of the spectrum then, Nischa, your 90-year-old self. What would her to thank you for today?
Oh, thank you for listening to yourself. Thank you for trusting yourself. Thank you for Thank you for pushing back and rebelling against the forces that told you you couldn't be who you are. And I think, thank you for being relentless. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm here today with any modicum of health, is because I was relentless in getting to the bottom of my trauma.
Yep.
You know, I left no stone unturned, and I ended friendships, I ended relationships, I cut ties with certain family members. I just was totally relentless and almost ruthless, to the point of whatever needed to be done. And I think we have to be relentless when it comes to honoring ourselves. There can be no, compromises or half measures. There's something else I think that I wanted my 90-year-old self would thank me for. Let me think. I was thinking about it when you first asked that. It's such a beautiful question. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe that's it for now. If I think of anything else, I'll add it in.
Add it in. We still got time. So
Okay.
From your work and from everything that you do, if you're standing on a stage right now and you're talking to tens of thousands of women, and the topic is about being empowered to grow, which I'm assuming is going against fawning, what would be that last message you leave them with?
Every single one of the voices that tell you that you're less than you think you are is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a lie, and it was put there by people who were supposed to love you, by a world that was supposed to love you and honor your inherent goodness, and didn't, because they were wounded.
Sure.
If it feels bad, it's a lie. I think that's probably one of the truths that has carried me through, my healing journey, is that if it feels bad, it's not true.
Yeah. Because
who you are, and this is, kind of taking us down to the direction of pleasure, who you are in a pleasurable, peaceful, delightful moment is the truth of who you are. In our body, in our minds, and our souls, that is what the truth is, and everything else is a lie.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And yes, the voices in our heads. And I think I came to face the voices in my head about 2 years ago or something. And I realized the biggest one that was so loud, and I was surprised I hadn't heard it for so many years, like 2-3 decades, was, who do you think you are? And I realized that was the voice that kept stopping me, that kept me at the threshold of the next phase, of the breakthroughs.
Yes.
Of every time getting there, that voice would activate. I didn't hear it before. I didn't even know it was there. And I would find myself retrieving and retreating back into a cocoon, away from the spotlight, away from practically owning the good space for myself, or the good feeling, or my space.
Oh. That is such a big one. I think I resonate with that a lot. And the one that I used to hear was, don't get too big for your boots, or you're getting too big for your boots, and I think that probably comes, my family's Irish, and I think that's probably an Irish saying, but it is, and it's something that we only say to women.
Yeah.
You never hear men saying that to themselves. And I'll tell you something, having gone through, this is interesting to me, and it breaks my heart a little bit, but going through my academic processes, anytime I had female advisors, they were constantly trying to rein me in and tell me, that's too advanced for you, and I think you're biting off too much, more than you can chew, whatever that saying is. When I had male advisors, they were like, go for it, punch the sky, and so there's this, it's so important as women that we really, really do work to encourage each other. Yep. And to not reinforce that old message of like, oh, who do you think you are? Or you're getting too big for your boots, or how dare you advance and go ahead from us, which people get when they lose weight, when they get a new job. It's how dare you jump out of the mud puddle that we're all standing in together, because misery loves company. However, you might interpret that, but that is something that happens when we start to change and grow. It can be triggering for other people.
Yeah. I've heard, have you ever heard of the crab theory?
No.
Crab as in crabs. So I heard it in first or in Bedros Keuilian's book, Man Up. And he was talking that, he was on vacation with his family, and it was kind of a small fishing town. And there was this older man, he was sitting and fishing, and he was fishing for crabs. And he had a bucket behind him, and every time he'd catch a crab, he would put it in the bucket. And he was giving his back to the bucket, so he wasn't even looking at it. And passing by, he stopped to look at him and stuff, and he saw that one of the crabs was trying to get out. So it was crawling out, kind of, climbing on the other crabs and trying to. So he's like, buddy, by the way, the crab is escaping. He's like, he didn't even flinch. He's like, keep watching. No, it isn't. Just keep watching. And he stayed watching, and he found that as soon as the crab got to the edge of the pail that it was in, the bucket was in, it was pulled back in by the other crabs. It was like, from that concept of this is our space, this is our comfort zone. Where do you think you're going? And that for me, as exactly as it's happening to you right now, it blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God. I've had crabs for so long in my life that I didn't understand why I kept crawling back. I kept getting pulled back. And for us, as you said, it was fawning. It was because of that feeling of, I can't let go. And I thought more also of our anchors, like even growing bigger than your family, your environment, your community, your school friends, your university friends, all of these people that you grow up with, who believe they know you better and believe that they know everything about you. And that's where it stops, is like, come on, seriously, that's not you. That's not, that's not how you act or something. I had a school friend of mine tell me that when I was exercising, and I was like really into CrossFit then, and then, kickboxing and that kind of thing. And he's like, seriously, you've never done that in your life, and you've always been chubby. And what happened? Oh my God. Automatically, my conditioning went back on. I got injured the same day, and I haven't been exercising like that since then.
Oh my goodness.
That's seriously, who do I think I am? I've never been athletic.
I can feel my anger like right in my sternum right now for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I had always tried. I was striving.
Yeah.
But I'm not built for it. I convinced myself that's not who I am.
Yeah.
And my body immediately, after is like, yeah, seriously, what were we doing? Oh no, yeah, that's not us. And let's go back again. And now I'm kind of, putting in the work. I've only put in the work past officially 2.5 years, like on the mental and emotional side of matters, but overall and all about my worth and everything over the past 4 years at least. And now I'm taking it really like small bites, one bite at a time, one small part at a time, just addressing it. And kind of I'm saying I'm changing the narrative. I'm rewriting my script in everything that should be around. So I love that, this is where it's amazing we're having this conversation. I know we're going to have a lot more in the uncharted discussion part, because there's a lot more to uncover there. But okay, I have to stop myself because I can go on forever talking about this. I love this. Nischa, where can our viewers and listeners find you in virtual space?
Yeah, so my website, nischaphair.com, on Instagram at Nischa Phair. And when is this going live, do you think?
Going live in April, I believe.
Okay, so then my book will be out on Amazon. I'm sure we'll have the links there in the show notes for people.
Yes, we will. Yes.
And yeah.
Perfect. Yay, okay. Thank you so much, Nischa. This has been enlightening in so many ways, and I'm sure we're going to delve a bit deeper in the uncharted part.
But I can't wait.
Yeah, thank you for the work you're doing, because I think it is really, really important. And as you said, even the part that we could be shying away from addressing for so long, and that's the pleasure part. And I want to delve a bit deeper with you on that in the next part.
Looking forward to it.
Great.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Well, you heard it. You listen to your gut, trust yourself, understand that being conditioned is one thing, and reconditioning yourself is another thing. And it is our responsibility. Now that we've got the awareness, we might as well make it our responsibility. So as always, I wish you love, abundance, and prosperity, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Grow podcast. For further engagement with a tribe of empowered women, join my Facebook group, Empowered to Grow, or visit my website, www.hananelbasha.com. I'll catch you on the next episode. And until then, know that empowered you empowers others. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all.